Awesome. So I know you don't get to see this, but I see a check mark on our YouTube and our Facebook. Means that we are live. I'm going to double check here on my handy phone and make sure I can see us and hear us fine before we really get kicked off. In the meantime, if you're hopping on here, please make sure that you give us a thumbs up, give us some comments so we know that you can see us and hear us just fine so we can get started. And once I see this on my screen or a comment or two, then we'll go ahead and begin. So, sure. Okay. I think I've shared it in all the places they're allowing me to. Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Wayne, for hopping on with us. Wayne sharing good morning to Chip and Juliet. I am Juliet Abdel, your host once again for the Westminster Chamber of Commerce, President and CEO. And today I am excited to have with me actually our immediate past chairman, Chip House. And Chip is here with us to represent Aquaserve. He has been kind of a nice example of a business success that has been able to weather as much of COVID as possible. And they've learned to adapt like many of our businesses. So we've decided to take some of those businesses and highlight them every week moving forward. And you may have seen it already when we highlighted GQ Barbecue, we had Cocapelli Beer Company, and then we also had Walmart at one point. If there's a business that you have seen do some things excellent and want us to capture that, please DM us and let us know so we can address that. And if you haven't already watched GQ Barbecue, there at the very end, Jason went in detail about how you can get some of their fun, cool prizes and free barbecue. And then there was a possibility that I could be a taste tester. Now, for me to get to that taste tester status, I need 100 comments on that video. So go back and comment frantically if you've not. I've been displaying this comment for some time, and the reason I'm displaying it is to show you that at any point during this broadcast, you can share any comments or questions, and we'll display them so that our expert can address them or myself and be able to recognize you for taking the time out of your day to really get engaged with us. So again, good morning to Wayne. I see Counselor Scully. Hello to you. And also Brian Head, thank you for hopping on with us. If it's your first time on our page and you're starting to really get engaged and enjoy these videos, all of them date back to March when we started this around the time of COVID, and you can find them in the video section of the Facebook page. You can also find them on the COVID Resource Hub on our chamber page. That's westminsterchamber.biz/COVID-19-updates. We're also on YouTube and on both Instagram and Twitter at Westy Chamber. So I think that's it for the housekeeping. Oh, hello, Joe. See, so I've given you some guidance already. Please find us on all those platforms. Every platform we really leverage for different content that we push out. So know that we're not out here just sharing blanketly across the grid the same thing on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're actually uniquely designing those messages and sharing information that's relevant to the audiences on those platforms. So welcome to you. I hope you come back again soon. I think now I want to transition. I know Chip is like eager to talk. I'm hoarding his conversation. Good morning to our current chairman, Brian Dice. Thank you also for hopping on with us. And then I see our wonderful counselor, Scully, as well. Good morning to you from both Chip and I. And Brian had Chip, you are getting the most comments. It's like I need water already. You're getting the most comments already within the first 2 minutes or so. So Brian is sharing good morning to you, Chip. I guess he doesn't want to share the same sentiment to me as well. But thanks for having me on, Brian, nonetheless. So I mentioned to you at the early onset of this is that this is one of our business success series stories that we're actually offering today. It's with Aquaserve, a member of our chamber, has been for, I want to say, since our inception. Chip is in the capacity with us as an immediate past chairman of our organization, having served on the State Water Board. He's also served on the Water 2025 working group here in the city of Westminster. and a variety of other groups. So he is our kind of knowledge guru as it relates to water. And we'll be asking him a couple of specific questions, more importantly on water, later on in this broadcast. But if you think of comments or questions, type them in so we can get to those as well. Hi, Mike Shelton and Sean Kaiser. So Chip, please tell us a little bit about Aquaserve. I know I've tried to give a condensed version of your bio, but if you can share kind of what your company does and where it operates.
Sure. I'm the operations manager for Aquaserve. We're a 30-year-old local business. We're in Broomfield. We do commercial and residential water treatment. We're also a licensed plumbing contractor with the state of Colorado. So we have a broad scope of business across many, many, many different restaurants and nursing homes and hotels and homes.
Yeah, so there is literally not one industry I don't think you touch. And Sean is sharing good morning to us as well. So Chip, one of the things we talked about earlier on, and businesses were impacted almost immediately when this transpired. You're in a different industry, a little bit more unique. So how were you impacted with Aquaserve? Did you see that lull in customers? Did you see more of an uptick that was there? What was the immediate disruption, if there was any at all?
So right from the very beginning, we were considered essential because we do serve hospitals and nursing homes and restaurants. But not just because of that, it's just because of the nature of our business. All of this entire industry across the United States was considered essential. So the only real slowdown that we saw was there was a bit of reluctance on the residential side for having us come out to the home. Because, again, of the nature of our business, our people have always had masks and gloves and sanitizing wipes and sanitizer because, as I like to refer to it, there are bunny suits that we have to put on every time we go into surgical centers to do work on equipment. So our people are used to having that and carrying it and using it. So we were never without PPE.
And so, and that's a great point because you're dealing with such a vital resource that you almost have to maintain that level of health and safety for your employees and the end user. So what did your business really do? Did you have a role in being able to have those people overcome the hesitance of having a plumber come to their home? I know that was one of the things really earlier on was that there was this exhaust that was happening in people's homes. People were actually staying at home. They had their whole families, their kids. So did the demand for a plumber override that fear that they had early on of actually having somebody or hiring somebody to come in?
Yes, that did vary from customer to customer. There were some that just were willing to wait till they felt more comfortable, but there were some where they had us come out and they left. They went and sat in their car or stood outside while we did the work, so they weren't in there with us. I thought that was interesting, and they liked the fact that from the beginning we told them that we have different types of masks. We can wear an N95 mask if you feel more comfortable with us doing that. They know because we've told them that we take temperatures of our employees every morning. And we actually asked a series of questions of them before we came, very similar to the kind that you would find maybe at the front door of a doctor's or dentist office. Have you been outside the country? Have you traveled anywhere recently? Is anybody feeling ill? So we were asking these questions of our customers.
Did you find that when you were doing that, did that help you filter customers, or was that more of a precautionary? We had a lot of people as we transitioned to this reopening phase that were very worried about, the legal implications of opening, and if someone were to contract it later on down the road and actually bring that onto the business. Did you see that some of that helped quell that fear or even dissuade certain people from actually hiring you guys on?
No, actually, everything we heard and the feedback we received, they were feeling better about it because they looked at us more because of our presence on the internet and our website and the age of the company. They felt like they weren't dealing with somebody that was just showing up at their door and didn't have any support staff behind them. I think that in general, the public feels better about those kinds of companies that can show a history behind how they've done business.
And so to that end, one of the initial fears as well, and we heard this, it was mainly because there was a lot of information going out at once, right? And it was when you go to the grocery store, make sure that you're maintaining that degree of separation, that you're not touching immediately after somebody. Well, then that really spiraled into more anxiety and more fear over what about to-go containers or plastic bags. I'm sure you have had something along the lines of water. So what have you heard as it relates to water, and educate us on, have people been asking, is water transmittable? Is it transmittable? What can you share with us as from your lens as a water expert?
So it's an interesting question. We did get a few people that asked us if it could survive in water, if it lived in water, could it be transmitted by water? And the absolute short answer is no. They've also noticed by reading on our website that we offer ultraviolet sterilization for the control of different bacteria and viruses in water. And so they just thought, well, maybe they do it for the whole thing. So I did field some calls from people that said, do you offer ultraviolet sterilization for my cell phone or for the air in the house? So
is that it?
People get really creative when they have a lot of spare time.
That
was the one thing that I found, that many people had been doing a lot more research. So I was getting way more educated questions when they were calling.
More time on their hands definitely opens up the opportunity for them to read more and really ingest some of that information. So I am curious, did you turn around and say, yes, we would do your phones, or are you strictly staying in the line of water?
Right. No, we don't have any equipment the ultraviolet equipment we have is exclusively for water and does not have the capability of doing air or surfaces.
Interesting. So we do have a question that comes to us from Brian Head. And this question, it relates to our ongoing change in the economy, some of our unemployment levels. Chip, I'll read this question to you and give you a chance to address it for him. So he's sharing, with the change in the economy and elevated unemployment levels, record unemployment levels, can you comment on the opportunity in the trades? You've dealt with competitive hiring situations when looking for qualified candidates in the past. What else can you share as it relates to this topic?
Well, the thing is, and Brian knows because we've had conversations about this, is just that there's way more opportunities for positions in this field than a lot of young people are aware of. They think that it requires more education than they have, or more experience than they have, or maybe they just don't realize the kind of opportunities and income that are available with this trade.
So along those same lines, Chip, have you maintained your employee base? Has your employee base actually increased or gone up during this time?
Well, we're always actively recruiting, and we just hired a new person for our service and installation end, but it was somebody that we had been communicating with since February. So it wasn't something that was created because of this. It just took this long for everything to come together.
Absolutely.
But
And
we
I
have
know,
not,
yeah.
we've not shortened our staff at all, and nobody has ever had less hours than they had before.
And what does that look like in terms of, excuse me, in terms of making sure your staff is also doing well? You know, you mentioned that you have a survey that you use to screen your customers. How does that look like on the backside as it relates to your employees?
Well, I mean, since nothing's ever changed, I mean, we're all coming to the office every day. We have regular Monday morning meetings and regular Friday afternoon meetings. Yes, to make a good impression, we moved our conference table out to the warehouse so that we could increase social distancing. But no, we stay in real close communication with all of our employees on a daily basis. So they know where we stand and we know where they stand.
So, what has been, you know, the most challenging industries for you? Are there any? You know, mentioned earlier on that you service a variety of types of businesses. So, when you think of retail, you think of restaurants. We've got senior communities, apartments, and even residential side. Earlier on, we saw that a lot of our senior facilities, for example, went ahead and just closed, and they closed their doors. You know, rightfully so. This is a demographic that's more vulnerable, that's at the higher or later stages of their life, and so they were doing their best to manage what they had and restrict any situations that might develop. Did that also affect vendor relations that you as a vendor had with these locations, or did that not go interrupted?
It actually goes uninterrupted. The only industry, shall I say, that dropped off completely was to schools, which makes sense.
And so, with the uncertainty of what schools look like, some of them have faced, you know, drastic cuts and everything, and the possibility that there might be either a hybrid model that they have or a continual virtual. Does that mean that your business line will be that sustained no business with those public schools, or?
Well, it's looking like it could be that, because the majority of what we do is water filtration that affects the kitchen. And if there's no students or staff on site, then they have no meals they need to cook, and their kitchen's not operational. If their kitchen is even slightly operational, then we're still going to be dealing with them as a client.
And people can see your brand. It's not like it's just in your warehouse. They can see it if they're at certain businesses. You've got those coolers that are hooked up. You have more of the filtration in those, you know, back end kitchens that they wouldn't see. But there's definitely some outward facing branding that's there.
Right, right. And there are industries. Okay, so we do a fair amount of business to CBD, hemp, and marijuana establishments, which shortly after they were deemed not essential, they were deemed essential. So their business has increased, and so our business with those venues has increased.
Yeah, and so, and I would imagine that hopefully that's filled that gap that you kind of had with the schools. You know, I don't know what that ratio looks like, but we have heard that our retail liquor stores and our CBD or marijuana stores are actually performing. I believe the statistic I heard was upward of 40% in the revenue uptick, if not more. So hopefully that's helped shift some of that portfolio that you had, where you have a decline in one industry, a rise in another.
Right, and that has happened. So it's always a balancing act, and it's for us. It's been more up than down, and some of it is still flat. But we're not that much different than we were 3 months ago.
So, what would you share? So, if you can educate people, and I know we can end up talking for hours on this, if you could talk to us about, water quality or, things that you should be aware of with the water that you drink versus the water that you use for, routine maintenance in your home and things like that. What are some key tips that you would give people to be mindful of in their homes? And then we'll transition to businesses after that.
So the biggest thing that we're getting calls about now has to do with what's going on in the city and county of Denver, where they're dealing with homeowners who have lead service lines coming to their houses. The city and county of Denver has actually sent out several 100,000 Brita pitchers to residences in Denver because their lead service lines may or may not be affecting the water in their house. And it's not just the lead service lines. I mean, there are plenty of people that are living in homes that were built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And although they may have copper plumbing prior to about 1984, they were still using lead core solder in those copper lines. So there's companies that offer lead testing. Like I know of one where you can go and get a lead test for $30. People are flocking to these locations, and then they're getting these results back, and they don't have somebody that they can depend on to give them accurate information. So this industry has a governing body called the Water Quality Association, which has tested and certified water filtration equipment for 75 years. It's very likely that the filter in your refrigerator has a WQA certification. In the late 70s, they started testing and certifying individuals, so people would know that the person they're talking to knows what they're talking about. Unfortunately, this industry is a lot like other industries. The only one that comes to mind is the tax preparation industry, where you should really be certified, but you don't have to be. I mean, any plumber who wants to switch over to doing taxes can hang up a shingle and vice versa. So we have the certification. The highest level of certification they offer is Master Water Specialist, and I am one. There's only 12 of us in the state of Colorado, and 2 are at our office. So oftentimes I will say to people, if you've read something on the internet or somebody's told you something and you just are not sure what you've heard is accurate, at least keep my cell phone number and use me as a voice of reason. Even if you don't do business with me, call me and say, what is this? Does this make sense to you? And that's really the niche that I like to fill, that helps people feel comfortable with us as a staff and as a company, that they will come back to us at some point in time because we gave them accurate information on the front end.
Absolutely. And I think that, that's an interesting point that you made earlier on, that there's 12 master water specialists across the state of Colorado, and one of the things that we always say is when you invest in certifications or you're investing in additional professional development or efforts, that is great for your business. I mean, in the long run, it gives you that competitive advantage because,
Right.
as we were sharing earlier, consumers are reading things online. 80% of why they decide to go where they go is after they've read online about the company. So they're researching and they are comparing. I can tell you, I recently had a referral. It was kind of for medical stuff, but recently had a referral, and I was over here frantically reading about the different types of specialists that are out there, how many years they've had, what their education is, and XYZ. And I did that not so much because the other ones weren't capable, but I wanted to compare which one did I feel more comfortable with. And based off of that, that's where I went with. So I do think that it gives you more of that competitive advantage when a business does invest in those things on their own, while also allowing for that healthy competitive environment that we want of business. So if somebody is looking to get started, they can get started and going and hopefully reap enough revenue that they can reinvest it in their business and in their employees so that they can add to that 12 and maybe make it 24 across Colorado, right? That's what we're hoping to build. Quick shout out to Lauren Seymour, and it looks like Peter Brissett also hopped on here, and I did not tag Peter with saying this, but he repeated something I said earlier on, which is that Chip is the water expert. You've heard him talk about the certification board that's here across the state of Colorado that's governing the Water Quality Association, and then more importantly about the credentials that he holds and at least one other person inside of their business as well. So that was excellent in terms of the remarks that you shared as it relates to, residents and some of the concerns that they're hearing, especially in Denver with those older homes and their lead type of pipes. What can you share as it relates to business from the business lens? And I'll have you answer that before I ask a follow-up, because I have a follow-up and I'm not sure if it'll distract or if it'll add. So I'll have you answer it from the business lens first.
So how is?
Yeah, so tips or suggestions that you can give to a business that's looking, at what they're at things that they can improve internally, right? And so one of those being their water and vendors that they currently existingly use, or people that they're looking to work with. What are some things that they should keep in mind when they're looking at those types of services or contracting it externally?
Well, this is sort of one of those opportunities to toot our own horn, but really, if you're going to look for somebody to deal with a water quality issue, whether it be inside your home or inside your business, deal with a certified professional so that that they know what they're talking about. Mm-hmm. That's the short and simple answer.
Right. And so do you find that businesses that have been around for a long period of time end up already having invested in those types of infrastructure for their business? Or is it at the onset when, you found a site that you're wanting for your business, so you're in that initial phase of build out, and so you start seeking additional, vendor relations? Is there more of a percentage, I would say, of existing businesses as opposed to a new business that opens?
That's an excellent question. And there are many, many times when we will go into a restaurant or a big manufacturing facility, and they have this piece of equipment, and nobody has ever been able to figure out how to make it work right or service it because they don't understand it. And so we will step in and be their service and repair and maintenance company, even though we didn't initially sell the equipment, because we have the ability to service all makes and models, no matter how big or how small it is.
Right. And I think that's great. That's great to know, especially with businesses that do, they rise and they fall. And if they've used someone years ago, your ability to still go in there and use equipment that still might have life and longevity to it. So it's not just a sunk cost and they'd have to reinvest in something entirely different. Right. Councilor Bowles, thank you for hopping on with us as well. Peter's asking, do restaurants filter their water?
Oh boy, Peter, that's a loaded question. So the short answer is yes, but not the way you think. Most restaurants only filter the water that goes to their dish machine because they want to be able to provide spotless, clean glasses and dishes. It's like I was once told by a manager at a high-end steakhouse, I can't put a $50 steak on a plate that looks like somebody sneezed on it.
Well, that's a fair point, and we also don't want someone sneeze on those plates. So I'm glad that they're filtering the items, that the utensils and everything that people are actually using. I think that's one of the most crucial items that are there. Brian is sharing that he always learns something new from visiting with Chip. He's got apparently crazy water stories. We are at our 30-minute mark, so unfortunately, I can't have him actually unload one of those stories. But if you are interested, please comment and let us know, or DM us. And I'm sure I can have Chip share a nice story that he's willing to put forward so we can all learn from it. That's fun and humorous and add some color and character to water, right? Because it's generally this tasteless, odorless, plain looking thing. But I'm sure you do have crazy stories. So can you believe I told you that we would end up talking and then it would just like fly by, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's more information that you would share easily. Larry Goodwin, thank you for hopping on with us. And I keep always butchering your last name, Larry Godwin from Front Range Sinorama. Thank you for hopping on here with us. We are at our 30-minute mark, which means that we will have to conclude our broadcast. Before I do conclude it, there's a couple of things that I wanted to know. One, Chip, if they wanted to reach you directly, what is the best way that they can do so?
Well, you can always go to our website at aquaserve4u.com. That's the letter for, or the number 4 and the letter U. Or I'm happy to have you call me directly at 720-291-1388.
Thank you, Chip. So if you're interested in connecting with Chip, maybe asking him more offline questions, or if you watch this video on replay, give us that hashtag replay so we know that you enjoyed it just as much as everyone that was tuned in. You'll see Chip's contact information listed for you right here, where it shares with you Chip's phone number and also the website, so you can find out more information about his company and ways that you can interface with him as well. If you think of a question or a comment that you didn't get a chance to share and you wanted to ask it anyways. We always come back and answer those comments and those questions at a later point in time. I wanted to also acknowledge that we'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. And tomorrow's broadcast is one that should help our businesses really redesign and reevaluate their business models. A lot of us are being pushed in specific directions in order to be able to reopen our business or to keep going. And so the need for us to really think through what is our business currently doing, how can we adapt certain components of it, has become even more important, if not increasingly so. We will have with us Joni Inman from Inman Consulting. Joni is a personal friend of mine, but she's also a member of our Chamber of Commerce and has led a variety of strategic planning efforts, as well as statewide associations that she herself has spearheaded. So please tune in tomorrow if you're thinking of how to reevaluate and readapt some of your strategic objectives for your business at 11 a.m. Thank you to all of you for taking the time to be here with us, and to, of course, our water expert and certified master, Chip House. Thank you as well for taking the time out of your day to be here with me. Goodbye.
Thank you. Appreciate it.